What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, and this is part 2 of my ranking, reviewing David Bowie's live albums. Part 1 was the ones released when he was alive as single standalone releases. Part 2 were the ones that were released after he passed away. Nassau, live at Nassau and Coliseum 76 is in this because I did not get the station to station re-release when it came out in like 2010 or whenever that was. So I'm doing live in Nassau now because I was first fully made aware of it shortly after David passed when it was released as a standalone. So that'll be on this list. I'm also going to do a part 3 that only includes the 6 releases that were the Brilliant Live Adventure series, a box set that came without a box. You had to buy the box, so if you wanted all 6, you could put them in a box. They weren't released together, but I'm going to do those 6 separately, just even though I've already done one of them in the previous video, just to keep these videos a little bit shorter. There are 8 videos, 8 albums in this part. I'm going to just talk for them from 8 to 1, rank them, and that's it. How did we get here from Zappa? In this video, there is a release. I want to say it's the Nassau release, in which when he introduces Adrian Belew, he says, Adrian Belew, late of Frank Zappa, or Frank Zappa, late of Frank Zappa, Adrian Belew. So Zappa gets name dropped. There we go. There's a connection. And Belew, of course, played with Zappa. But that's it. That's all I'm going to do. Talk about these 8. Yeah. Oh, if you saw the first video and had major issues with where I placed specifically 2 of the albums, my placing of those albums in 2024, where I did, has a lot to do with what is on in this video, the stuff that has been released after Bowie passed away. These releases definitely influenced my feelings about those releases in the last 4 or 5 years. Since they've been released. That's all I got. All right, on to number 8. Number 8 is Live in Berlin, 1978. This was released as part of an exhibit, I believe, in New York City or something. There was a David retrospective something, and this was released, I think, there. I think it was it's on streaming. I think it was given maybe an official release on a record store day once. Maybe I'm confusing that with something else. But I know it was originally part of like an art exhibit. But it's 8 songs from a Berlin show in 1978. This is the stage tour, essentially. Adrian Belew. It's 8 songs that you can get elsewhere. Heroes, Be My Wife, Blackout, Sense of Doubt, Breaking Glass, Fame, Alabama Song, Rebel Rebel. You can get them other places. It's kind of interesting at times because I think the mix is just a little different than those other ones. So I think the bass kind of pops in a different way on some of the songs. I think the one song that is absolutely saved in this sort of 8 random song format is Alabama Song. To me, Alabama Song, it's that, oh, show me the way to the next. That one, the ones that the Doors did better, I would argue. It just doesn't fit in the rest of the show, especially considering it just does not fit in the rest of the show. Here it does, because you only have like 7 songs that precede it, and they're in the order they're played, but they're like not, you're missing whole chunks of songs, missing all the Ziggy Stardust stuff, and you're missing all this crazy stuff. Alabama Song works, I think, the best in this context. It's the one song I'm like, okay, that's kind of nice. But other than that, I'd rather hear these in the other places where they're released, including an album that's going to be on this list much further down the line. But that's my number 8, Live in Berlin, 1978. Number 7 is Changes Now, Bowie, which I believe are live sessions from rehearsals for a tour back in, when was it? Back in 97, there was going to be some Bowie 50th birthday celebration. So I think these are live rehearsals for that show. Came out in 2020. It's from a studio. So it's not a rowdy live audience thing, but they are live sessions. And it's pretty much qualified as a live album. But it's number 7. It has, 9 tracks. It's a pretty interesting set list. There's some deep cuts on here. I think the first two are maybe the not deepest of the cuts, and then everything else are kind of interesting choices. Um, the first two, we get A Man Who Sold the World and Aladdin Sane, and both of them have a very sort of unplugged acoustic kind of laid back vibe, which is not my jam. That's not my thing. The Aladdin Sane has some pretty good piano in it, though it still feels a little bit restrained. The Man Who Sold the World, I don't know, it's not doing it for me. White Light, White Heat is electric. Reeves Gabriels gets a chance to just shred. He has some really nice guitar playing on here. But overall, I like White Light, White Heat, what Bowie. I like the song. I don't like the fact that it's a cover of White Light, White Heat, if that makes any sense. I don't think it's a good cover, but I think it's an enjoyable song. I would argue. I think that makes sense. It's just it's not it's yeah, it's weird. Bowie doing Velvet Underground, just here comes the sun. He should have done that. Then we get Shopping for Girls, which is really nice. The Tin Machine song. I really like this. Really nice woozy slide guitar vibe. We're not in that unplugged vibe as much anymore. We're now like really things are getting interesting. Then we just get some really nice song choices. Lady Stardust, The Superman, Repetition, which is which is one of those songs where musically what is happening versus what is actually going on lyrically, that disparity is kind of shocking and jarring, but it's a great song. Andy Warhol, and then Quicksand. So a curious little listen, kind of fun, good track list. I don't think it starts off well with the unplugged vibe, but then it gets more interesting. But I think once we hit Shopping for Girls, I think the latter half of this is much stronger than the first half. Not bad, but not great. Didn't change the world. An interesting, curious little listen. Changes Now, Bowie, my number 7. Number 6 is Glastonberry 2000. This is Bowie's set from Glastonberry 2000, the rock festival. It came out in 2018. And I would say this very much sounds like a festival set. Kind of sonically sounds like it. The vibe sounds it. I think Bowie's in a good mood. I don't think it's that bad of a listen. The songs are all pretty interesting, but it is kind of a greatest hits. But there are moments. And if I was at this show, I think I would absolutely love it. I think I would have had a great time. But considering what else he has released, it just has to fall down to number 6 because I just don't think it's definitely lacking that club or even a younger Bowie vibe. This is very much the elder statesman Bowie making a whole festival crowd very, very happy. But he is making them very, very happy. Some of the strengths, it opens up, the first song is Wild as the Wind, which is just absolutely great choice. Kind of reminds me of Pearl Jam, usually starting off their like most of their shows with like a ballad or like a slower number because like it's brilliant. Like the crowd is ready. Like, yes, they want you to rock, but if you're going to start off with something slow, I think you have them more that first song than you do any other time ever. Wait for the like beat to drop. Like, let it linger. There's a Pearl Jam show in Italy where they open up with 6 slow songs in a row. By the time they finally drop Corduroy, it's just like all heck breaks loose. China Girl's the follow-up song. I don't think it works. I think it's a bad choice. You either need to stay slow or drop. Like a Modern Love would have been perfect if you're going to do something off that album. I don't like the way Bowie sings Changes in the song Changes. Other than that, that's okay. We get a Stay that has moments in the verses when I think it's very sparse. Like it's like there's a lot of going on here for that festival, fill up the festival crowd. But the Stay verses are pretty sparse and it's probably the best funk of the whole song. Life on Mars, Absolute Beginners. We get Ashes to Ashes, which has a really nice closing dance vibe at the end. They lean into that. Rebel Rebel, Little Wonder, Golden Years, disc 1. Then you get disc 2. You get a Fame, All the Young Dudes. Still love that he's playing that song. Man Who Sold the World, A Station is Station, that's pretty good. Starman, that's a good choice. Like the choice. Hello Space Boy, Under Pressure, Ziggy Stardust, Heroes, Let's Dance. And then he ends with I'm Afraid of Americans, which is pretty awesome. Like, the Let's Dance has that slow beginning, which I'm not just a fan of. Just start the song. You're just teasing us. Doesn't work in the song. Worked in the beginning of the show. But yeah, it's solid stuff. It's good performances. I think Earl Slick is again the guitar player here, so he's been with Bowie forever. Garson's on piano, so you got that energy. Yeah, so it's good, but I think it's very much a festival set. And considering what else is still to come, that is for me number 6. Number 5 is Sirius Moonlight, live in 1983. This is fantastic. I am surprised by how good this album is for an 83 Sirius Moonlight post Let's Dance tour. There's crazy horns all over the place, but I kind of think they work. It does, we're not fully committed to the 80s sound yet, but there's still a large sort of arena, sports arena, amphitheater type sound to this. But I don't know. The set lists, the playing, the use of horns, just the energy, little like the bass player is ridiculous. Like what Heroes is the second song. There's a little boo-doo, boo-doo, little disco bass line thrown in Heroes right in the middle of it. A lot of it has like a Zappa 80s energy where like you're hearing these songs and the production is like this weird, kind of 80s sheen, but then just what's going on and all the little details are just so fine. And I think elevate the material. I wanted to put this higher just to advocate for how surprisingly good I think this album is, but the next 4, I had a really hard time just separating those out, let alone inserting another one into them. Opens up with Look Back in Anger, which surprisingly, I think is the awesome song choice, but is the one song that just kind of doesn't work for me. It's just like, I don't know. He's trying too hard to be something a little bit different or something, and because he's trying, and then once he just goes back to playing the hits and doing that, it almost seems like it works better. But I don't know. It's the one song that I'm really glad that's the opener, but it doesn't connect with me. Heroes, I'm not invested in until we get that disco bass line. And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, this band's got some personality. And then from there on out, I think it's fantastic. What in the World kind of sounds like, what did I write? XTC meets like some crazy disco swag, frantic craziness, but there's that XTC pop energy with just some disco energy. Golden Years works for me. I'm not the biggest Golden Years fan, but I think it really works well with this band, especially with the horns. There's a Fashion is awesome choice. That goes right into Let's Dance, and that segue works incredibly well. There is some crazy manic sax battling energy going on in the Let's Dance. We get a Breaking Glass. We get a Life on Mars, which is just like exactly what's needed. Life on Mars comes at exactly the perfect time. Like the whole like, what in the World, Golden Years, Fashion, Let's Dance, Breaking Glass just seems to be meeting this point where it's just going to fall apart. Life on Mars is like, oh, that's kind of perfect. Then we get a Sorrow, just absolutely random Sorrow thrown in there. Nice, kind of slightly early rock 50s vibe. We get a Cat People, which kind of doesn't work for me. Not a fan of the Let's Dance version. We get a China Girl, which I like the studio version. The live one's not really doing them for me. We get a Scary Monsters, which is always fantastic. The guitar playing on this, the horn swag on this. This is a crazy, eclectic, all over the map type thing. A Rebel, which is nice. What did I write? Yeah, and Rebel works well because the Scary Monsters before it sets up the energy, and they just kind of take that energy and write it. White Light, White Heat opens up the second disc. I like the song. I don't like the fact that it's a cover of White Light, White Heat. I don't think it does the song justice, but I think he does a good job of making the song work. Station to Station, we get 2 minutes of just straight noise, guitar noise before the first drop, that heavy drop comes in. Cracked Actor, still awesome that he's playing this. Ashes to Ashes, Space Oddity, where he introduces the band. The bass playing in Space Oddity is fantastic. There's a lot going on in this version of Space Oddity, like including an absolute shredding solo. Not my favorite version of Space Oddity, but in the context of this show, I think it works. We get a Young Americans of Fame, and then we close out with a Modern Love. And I will say that Young Americans also just, there's something not right about that. That one, it doesn't feel like they're in the pocket in that. And when they get to the, there ain't one damn song that can make me break down and cry. The whole vocalist, the backing vocalist sing the break down and cry, which is like, I would rather see Bowie try to do that and fail than him not try. Try, Bowie, try. But I like this release. I think it's a great listen. There's enough random things thrown in there that other releases don't have. We get the sorrow, the cat people, which is awesome. Again, most of the other stuff. The One in the World, which we kind of abandoned, which we had, I guess we had in the late 70s. Look Back in Anger as an opener. Some good stuff. I think the playing is much better than I expected. Yeah, this is a good listen. My number 5 is Serious Moonlight. The other next four, I had a really, really hard time trying to figure out where to place them. But let's get to number 4. Number 4 is I'm Only Dancing, the Soul Tour 1974. This was the second half of the Diamond Dogs tour when songs were dropped that shouldn't have been dropped. And what's that song called? Young American songs were started included in the set list. Way too much horn action on here. There's horns galore. I think it's only one saxophone. I think it's just Dave Sanborn, but Dave Sanborn's all over the place. But then you got War and Peace, Anthony Hinton, Ava Cherry, Robin Clark, Diane Sumler, and Luther Vandross and and Luther Vandross on backing vocals. So you got a big soul sound. Alamar Slick on guitar, Garson on piano, Rosario on percussion, Kasasan and Dennis Davis on drums and bass, respectively. But it's a transition, very much a transitional tour. It's a really fun listen. David Bowie's voice is shot. Like, he has no voice. His voice is rough. He's trying. He's giving it his all. Way too much horns. Soul everywhere. But it's just a really fun show. A really fun set list. Kind of, between eras in a mini sense. Opens up with like sort of a little snippet of Memory of a Free Festival as somebody introduces him. We go into Rebel Rebel. John, I'm Only Dancing is the second song. This is the John, I'm Only Dancing again because it's like the Young American, what was the other one called? I'm blanking on names. Gouster, sort of John, I'm Only Dancing energy. We get another Sorrow, dropping that in there. Changes. 1984, Moon Age Daydream, Rock and Roll With Me, Gene Genie with a Love Me Do little intro, and Young Americans. All the stuff off Young Americans pretty much sounds exactly like it would on either that or the Gouster. Right in the middle of the show, we get a bunch of Young American stuff. We get Young Americans, Can You Hear Me? It's Gonna Be Me, Somebody Up There Likes Me. So we get that run right in the middle. Then we get a Rock and Roll Suicide, which one of the weaker tracks on here. Just kind of a Panic in Detroit, a Knock on Wood, which just kind of sounds weird. It's a weird song to choose, and this is probably the weirdest version of them all. And then the two extra tracks, there's like bonus tracks from another show. We get a cover of something called Foot Stomping that goes into I Wish I Could Shimmy Like My Sister Kate, back into Foot Stomping. It's like 3 minutes of that. And then we get a Diamond Dogs, where by the end of it, Bowie and I think many of the backing singers are singing It's Only Rock and Roll, but I like it. Just that part of the song. But we get that kind of a mashup of those two to end it. Yeah, it's just a really neat, fun, awesome little release from like a half a tour in Bowie's life after abandoning some of the ideas and songs from the first part of the Diamond Dogs and then incorporating the Young Americans into this. Yeah. It's just a really neat, fun listen. I kind of wanted to put it higher just because of the novelty of it all, but his voice is shot, which kind of adds to the charm of the show. I like that. I like the warts and all aspect of live stuff, but there's way too much horn in here. Sanborn, he has no leash on him. He's just going all over the place. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I like the fact that it's there, but yeah, it's a really fun, enjoyable show. But yeah, that would be my number 4. I'm Only Dancing. Number 3, and this was hard to put in number 3, it's Welcome to the Blackout. This was released it's London, 78. It was released in 2018. This is the same, this is the stage tour. Adrian Belew, that tour that we got on stage, that we got on live in Berlin, Alamar. The set list resembles a lot of what stage is. But there's a couple things going for this. One, you get a lot more audience noise, and I think that immediately helps. Two, I don't know if I don't know what it is, but there's way more eyebrows on almost all the songs than you hear on stage. It just seems like everything is just a little more, it's pretty much the same versions for the most part, like the renditions or, they're not rearranging the songs, but there's just little things that you hear that pop out that just engage you a little bit more. And I think it's just overall a better listen. And for some reason, I'm able to better understand Bowie's intent with the set lists listening to this than I think I did with stage, because right in the middle of it, he has a run of Ziggy Stardust songs all in a row, played in the order they were on the album. And just a bunch of Ziggy Stardust songs. And I think originally he was going to play the entire album, but chose only to play these songs. And I always thought it was just weird. I didn't think it flowed. The original release, the songs were sequenced in the way they were originally released, and then the new release put them in the concert order. I don't think either one of them worked. Here, it kind of all makes sense because you have the whole show and you have the live audience noise, and I'm just like, it makes sense. So what you get, the first CD is essentially two little mini sets. The first set, or maybe the prelude, the prologue, is Warsawa. Sorry for mispronouncing that. Warsawa. Which is like your ambient sort of opening, lets everybody sit down. This is still highly engaging, but it's going to set the tone. Then we get this run of songs that just continues to get better as it goes along. Heroes, which has way more time to breathe and just feels a lot looser and jammier, and it just feels like they're in the show already. Heroes, What in the World, Be My Wife, the Gene Genie, which just like feels like it should be the peak, just this psych guitar frenzy peak early in the set. But then when they finish that, they go right into Blackout, and Blackout is ridiculous. It's like we're pedal to the metal still just going off. Like it's an early peak. Then we get Sense of Doubt. That's our like intermission music. Bring us down. Let's calm down for a while. Like I get it so far. It's perfectly placed in this set. We needed this break after Blackout. After that, we have like another little mini series, another little episode. We have Speed of Life. Great, awesome opener for this next set of music. We drop into Sound and Vision. Awesome choice. I think this was the only time it was played for like all the way until the Sound and Vision tour, if I'm not mistaken. Like this song did not come back until 90. This is the only time it was played. It sounds fantastic. Should have been played more often. Breaking Glass, Fame, and then after Fame, which could have been the next peak, they go into Beauty and the Beast, and they manage to ride the energy and take the energy up higher and finish the first set with that. Bowie's like, we'll be back in a while. CD1 ends. CD2, we open up with the Ziggy Stardust songs, and it makes sense. It fits. We already had these two really what felt like conceptually, musically bound sets in the first set. 1 and 2, first half, second half. Now we get the Ziggy half, 5 Years, Soul Love, which I think this is the best version of Soul Love. I think this band did Soul Love fantastically. There's just something way more alive about it. Star, Hang On to Yourself, Ziggy Stardust, Suffragette City. They all sound fantastic. Just a little more muscle under some of these things. Then we get to our next break with Art Decade. Probably the busiest of the breaks that we get, but it works perfect because we're at a part of the show where we need a break, but we're also still highly engaged, right? So it's kind of weird and dynamic, but at the same time, it's one of those ambient pieces. Then we get Alabama Song, which still doesn't work for me, but it feels more in the flow of what's happening in this show than it does on stage. Station to Station, which we get like 2 to 3. This is a keyboard heavy Station to Station. So we get a lot of keyboard noises. Then the guitar energy drops. The bass drops at 4 minutes. And then the actual boom, full-on groove doesn't drop until like 4:20. So nice build-up. A lot of baloo squealing. A lot of just noises. A lot of energy. A lot of momentum in this really good Station to Station. We get a TVC 1.5, a Stay, and a Rebel. And the Stay is just straight up jamming in the beginning of this. Like this Stay is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it's just so much swag in this. And then Rebel takes that energy and it just ends with party energy. The Rebel just, it feels like a celebration, like a party, like an embrace of everything that is perfect about David Bowie. Yeah, can't believe this is number 3. But it's one, I think it's because the opening song is not as absolutely amazing as the ones that are going to follow. And yeah, I had to, the other two exist. The other two exist, and they have more of my favorite songs on it. But this is a fantastic release. My number 3, Welcome to the Blackout, London 78. Number 2 is Live Nassau Coliseum 1976. I think that's the official title of it. 76. This came out, this was originally released as a live part of the Station to Station re-release in early 2010, right around there, end of 2010. They're like deluxe edition. It was officially released as a standalone about a month after Bowie passed away, or maybe a year after Bowie passed away. After Bowie passed away. I think it was like a year and a month after Bowie passed away, like the following year. But February 2017. But yeah. And this is the Station to Station tour. The show is from March 1976. This is a fantastic, fantastic release. I had to justify why I put this at number 2 instead of number 1. So I got a couple minor complaints. But it is a ridiculous show. And the opening Station to Station, if it wasn't for the existence of what is at number 1, is reason enough to put this at number 1. The opening Station to Station is just ridiculous. Stacey Haydon, Heydon, this was his only tour with Bowie, my understanding, right? And he just tears up this Station to Station. It is a beast of a Station to Station. It is just ferocious. It is lots of guitar, lots of swag. Yeah, the energy is fantastic. This whole show has kind of a coked up feel about it. Like some of the arrangements just feel like coked up and the energy kind of feels coked up. We'll get to how that doesn't always work as we go through the set list. Station to Station drops, ends. When it's over, we immediately go into Suffragette City. Bowie understands what this show needs. We're just going to ride that hard. That's what we're doing on this tour. Then we get a Fame. Again, awesome 3 show. The opening to this, one of the reasons this is ranked so high, because I'm in already. These 3 songs, I'm sold. Word on a Wing, fantastic choice. Like absolutely amazing. We kind of get to bring it down a little. We get to chill out a little bit. Good choice of chill out songs. Of course, he was touring this album, so it made sense. We get a Pretty Ferocious Stay. That is just some really awesome energy. We get a Waiting for the Man. It kind of reminds me of, again, I don't like this as a cover of Waiting for the Man, but I like the song. Kind of sounds like a cheesy sort of Dylan around this time where he has those highly repetitive songs, which is like kind of upbeat, groovy, kind of Dylan vibe, cheesy Dylan vibe, the electric type thing. That's kind of what it reminds me of. It works. I just don't think it's a good Waiting for the Man song. Then we get a Queen Bitch. That ends the CD1. CD2, we get a Life on Mars. Life on Mars, we get a truncated, it's like half the version. Something about it. Life on Mars is one of those, as much as I love the song, live it doesn't always hit. But then we get a 5 years. That might be one of the best things Bowie's ever done vocally. He's struggling at times, it feels like. And it feels like there are moments in the song where he's like kind of just mailing it in, right? Is that the word? Mailing it in. But then as the song goes on and the energy builds and we get to the end, it's just like he feels like when he goes, my brain hurts a lot, it doesn't sound like he's singing the song as much as he's complaining. And then he says, my heart hurts a lot. And he focuses on things hurting a lot for a while. And just the ending of this song, it's one of the best versions of 5 years. I think it's just absolutely essential to understanding sort of the intensity of this album. I think there's again, a manic coke fueled, or there's energy behind this show. And the 5 years is almost like we get to calm down, look behind the curtain, and Bowie gets to scream about his pain. 5 years is fantastic. Then we get a Panic in Detroit. The drum solo is mostly edited out, which I'm okay with. We get a Changes. The Changes, It's one of those that there's a lot going on here. It sounds like, we have way too many ideas. Let's just slow it down. But I don't know. It's kind of dynamic. Bowie's in a good mood. He's laughing it off, laughing right away as soon as he starts the vocals. So I don't know. This one fits with the energy of the show. We get a TVC 1-5, a Diamond Dogs, a Rebel Rebel, and then we close out with the Gene Genie. I always like Gene Genie. This is probably my least favorite of the arrangements. There's a very, I don't know, standard, predictable, bluesy rock live audience type vibe. It's got some very stomper blues psych energy. I love it. I don't think he's ever done a bad Gene Genie. But of the Gene Genies floating out there, this is probably my least favorite of the arrangements. And it maybe had we ended on Rebel Rebel and not a Gene Genie that I like, but wish was something different, maybe this would rank a little higher. But as it is, it's number 2. I think it's a great show. It's not perfect, but the things that aren't perfect are intriguing and interesting. And in the history of David, we know why they're there, just because, he's doing so much and going through many phases, and like his restlessness is almost like apparent in this show. Yeah, really, really good show. But my favorite is a show from one of my favorite albums, Tours. Yeah. All right, let's get on to number 1. And my number 1 is Cracked Actor Live 74 in Los Angeles. This was recorded in September of 74, came out in 2017. This might have been the one that was released on Record Store Day. Yes, it was. This is that big band with all the backing vocalists, with Slick and Alomar and everybody that we heard also on I'm Only Dancing. Only Bowie's still doing his Diamond Dog stuff. And while there are some performances on here that are not as, I think, epic or must hear as some of the performances on David Live, notably Sweet Thing Canada's Sweet Thing, Reprise, I do think the overall vibe of this, the fact that the audience is so present, like they're screaming, they're cheering, like there are times it kind of reminds me of Springsteen from like 75, 76, when you can just hear that audience reaction and like, he's up there in front of the stage talking and you can just hear like people yelling at him and the way he interacts with them. That's the vibe I'm getting from this. It feels like a club show. Where is it in Los Angeles? It was played at, it doesn't say. If anybody knows where this was played, the Universal Amphitheater. Yeah, the amphitheater is kind of a big place, but it's in a lot of shows there. It did have it was a smaller, cozier type amphitheater vibe than, say, things that were made in like the 80s. My memory of it. I don't know what it was like in 74. Though I was there, I wanted to go to the show, but Mom was like, "You're only 4, you can't." But yeah, very similar set list to David Live, but I think the energy and just everything sounds better. 1984 sounds better. Sounds just a little bit more funkier. Just those rhythms are just grooving a little bit harder. Rebel Rebel, fantastic. Moon Age Daydream, great swag energy in this Moon Age Daydream. Just awesome, awesome energy. Attitude, swag, fantastic. We get that Sweet Thing, really upbeat, kind of lively, almost like, I don't want to say peppy, but there's a really positive, upbeat energy to this song, especially as we get toward the end. I don't think it's as epic as a performance as the David Live one, but who cares? He's still playing it, so that counts for points. We get a Changes, that is the nice like piano intro in the beginning. Aladdin Sane. This is the one which has this really strange, almost new wavy Copacabana Latin vibe that I don't think I like it as much as the original vibe, but it's fun. The piano takes on a totally different attitude when we get the piano solo in it, but it's pretty interesting. We get All the Young Dudes. It's so awesome to hear all the young dudes. Love this. You can the audience cheering in the beginning when the vocals are pretty sparse and like you don't have a lot of a band accompaniment. Just sounds absolutely amazing. Cracked Actor, Rock and Roll with Me. That's another one with just the late night vibe on the beginning of the song on this tour. Just that very like, hey, we're about to close. Let me do one last song. And then, the band comes in and we get some awesome guitar playing toward the end. Knock on Wood. Still think that's a horrible choice of covers. Even in this show, I'm not a fan of it. It's Gonna Be Me, which is an awesome set choice. I'm trying to remember what he put in here on David Live instead of something else. I think he normally had like a slow song right here. And that's the nice Gouster outtake is awesome. What did he drop on David Live? On David Live at this point, he dropped a... Oh, no, he dropped a Diamond Dog. So that's just a nice little gift, yeah, that we get in this one. That's pretty cool. Got to get back to where I was on these songs. So, yeah, just sounds perfect. It's an awesome, awesome song to hear. I don't know of any other releases that it's on. Where am I? Cracked Actor. Yeah, so that was an awesome song to hear. And then after that, then we get Space Oddity. A lot going on in the Space Oddity. Very jazzy piano intro, just like a lot more sax going on here than on the David Live version. Diamond Dogs, we get the Future Legend intro, which is awesome. Big Brother, we get the chant jam at the end. A really nice Time. I think Big Brother segues directly into Time. Yeah, really nice pairing there. A Genie, which is just, you get that really nice doo-doo. Reminds me of Moe's song Jazzwink at that intro. And then you just get this heavy blues space psych jam that's absolutely phenomenal. A Rock and Roll Suicide. And then we drop a John, I'm Only Dancing Again at the end this time, and get that crazy, frantic, cocaine frenzy disco groove to send us home. Yeah, this is a fantastic release. This is why David Live fell where it fell, because I have this to listen to. Even though there are a handful of tracks on David Live that performance-wise might be better, to me, the entirety of this thing is so much more fun and so much more enjoyable. And there are things that you hear that I don't remember hearing on David Live ever. Yeah, I really, really like this release. And it's from the Diamond Dog store, and that might be my all-time favorite Bowie album. I don't know. Anyways, that's all I got for this. That's my number one, Cracked Actor. And that's what they look like in writing. My favorite albums, or my ranking of these live albums. Yeah, it was rough. Those top four, man, I think those top four are all really great. That's Soul 74, just because that's the only slice of that we have. I think Welcome to the Blackout and Cracked Actor do a good job of supplanting Stage and David Live. Personally, I think those are good. Live Nassau, just ridiculous. Yeah, pretty good. And Serious Moonlight, I think, is surprisingly good. I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed that. Kind of cheesy at times, but yeah, a really good listen. But yeah, that's my ranking. All right, let me know yours. Let me know what you think. Let me know your favorite art. Let me know what I'm wrong about, what I'm right about. All that kind of stuff, you know. I don't think I missed any live albums this time. I'm going to do the Brilliant Live Adventure Series next and tackle those 6. I will revisit one of them just for the sake of the list. But yeah, anyways, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, and go listen to Cracked Actor, people, or Live Nassau, or Welcome to Blackout, or I'm Only Dancing. Those are ridiculously good, I think. All right. Yeah. All right. And again, not the sound quality isn't perfect, but, you know, hey, who cares? The music is. I'm not picky about those things, so be warned. All right. Peace. That's all I got. Talk to you later. Thanks.